Hospital Porter's Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanmo TV and Happy New Year, Herpanmo TV viewers. Well, it's my first video of 2026 and it's a rather unusual one. It's one I hadn't expected to make, and I hope it's not going to set a precedent for the rest of the year, but I've got a feeling it might. I'm in the excrement. I'm in the poo. I'm up Excrement Avenue without a paddle, basically. I don't want to worry you guys, but I am kind of in the shit, and it's a really, really strange situation. I'm not quite sure what to make of it, to be honest. I'm really still not sure exactly what's going on, but I will explain. I will explain. Now, readers of Herpanmo Voice will know this because I've kind of been talking about it on there. But yeah, I'm being sued. I am being sued, and I'm not the only one, which is a bit strange, but I'll come to that later. But anyway, as soon as this kicked off, what happened was just before Christmas, this all kicked off. And I remember thinking back to 2019. Now, regular viewers will know that in 2019, I went on a protest. It was the Brexit protest. It was in I can't remember the full title. It was something the Bojo Revolution in 2019, and I got arrested. I got arrested, and I tell the full story there. And indeed, in a few videos later, I tell the story about my interview. I had to go into the police station and be interviewed. Now, the officer who arrested me, Simon, what was his name? He was a nice guy, actually. I got on well with him. He was very friendly, and I was cooperative, and he was nice to me. And he said something very interesting, and I said something very interesting in reply. He said, "I don't really want to arrest you, Ben. I can tell you're a good guy." And I replied, "Well, thanks, Simon, but we live in a world under tyranny, and good guys are going to get into trouble." Because, of course, the bad guys aren't, are they? Yeah. The good guys are going to get into trouble. And it's kind of an offhand comment at the time, which I knew was true. I sort of knew it was true, but it didn't. It's one of these things you sort of intellectualize without really understanding. But now I realize, of course, it is true because of what's happened to many, many people in this world, and me. And now it's happening to me. And funny enough, it's one of these things, you see it all around. But yeah, I mean, maybe things. Well, maybe people. It's not the only thing. When it comes to things like diseases and stuff, people think, well, it happens to other people, but it'll never happen to me. And maybe there was a part of me that understood that it might, but deep down, I didn't think it would. And now it has. Maybe that's a good thing because it means I'm having an effect. I'll come on to that. But yeah, I've received a very strange email just a couple of weeks before Christmas. And I'll try and do the voice, the proper voice, because it's from a group called PA Media Group, and I'll try and do a PA Media Group voice. What is a PA Media Group voice? Dear Ben, that's like that, yeah, a bit like that. Dear Ben, we are contacting you regarding the use of our imagery on your website, herpanmovoice.blogspot.com. We don't have any record of our content being licensed for this use. This email outlines the situation and the steps you need to take to resolve the matter. Use of PA Media images. PA Media is the national news agency for the UK and Ireland. We own the copyright to images taken by our photographers. We have noticed that you are currently using one, and there's a strange thing where it says number one images brackets S, as if this is kind of a template email, which it is. From our collection on your website, there's a license fee, £375. All PA images must be licensed before use. If your organisation does have a valid license, please upload it via our case portal, details below. If we've contacted you in error, please accept our apologies. By sending us the license, we can close the case. If you don't have a license, your use of our imagery would constitute an infringement of our copyright, and so you need to take action to resolve this situation. Solution. You need to purchase a license to cover your use by using our case portal. We're requesting the payment of £468.75, including our administration fee. If you resolve this matter within 7 days, we offer a 10% early settlement discount. Once you have purchased a license, you will be cleared to continue using the images, or image and images bracket S, and the past use will be covered by your payment. Please note that removal alone does not resolve this matter. Please refer to our frequently asked questions in the case portal for answers to common questions regarding copyright protection. Kind regards, PA Media Group Infringements Team. Now, the letter had no signature, so there's no one, even though they addressed me as Dear Ben, there was no signature on the letter. So my first thought, this has got to be some kind of scam. It's because you get these all the time, these telemarketing people, and I get these spam emails all the time demanding money. You've done this. We're closing your account for this. Please send money now because your cloud is not working. It goes right up to, oh, we videoed you masturbating and we're going to send it to your wife and stuff like this. It's all kinds of stuff like that. You get all kinds of like threats, extortion attempts, fraud all the time. So I thought that might be it, but then I received a reminder, and this reminder included some additional warnings, and along with the previous content, it said this: compensation is due for your past use of our image, (S). You need to purchase a license using our case portal. We're requesting the payment of £468.75, including our administration fee. Once you've purchased the license, you'll be cleared to continue using the images, and your past use will be covered. Removal alone does not resolve the matter. We reserve the right to add additional fees to our settlement request that cover any additional costs incurred if you do not resolve your breach of our copyright by paying our settlement request. This could be in the form of interest as well as legal fees. This means basically, if you don't get a move on and give us the money, you have to end up paying more. This is a common thing with fines and as all kinds of like charges. Copyright owners suffer damages when images are used without permission. Their exclusivity diminishes and they ultimately lose value. If you have not already removed the imagery from your site, please do so. Please do this immediately. However, removal of the imagery alone does not resolve the possible infringement. Okay. And payment is still due for the time it has been online. Right. Okay. So even if I take the image down, it's not over. They still want the money. Now, this particular email, the second email, actually began with just hi, no name. They didn't address me by name. And again, there was no signature at all. And what I'll tell you now, the one they're referring to is an image that I put on this. I'll show you it. It's an image that I put on this article. Here we go, back in May. Why I did not vote reform, Friday the 2nd of May. And this is the image here. Okay, so you can go and look that up if you want, but that's where it is. That's what they're talking about right now. All right, so anyway, I thought, what's going on here? So I decided to just check up on this because I realized if this is a scam, it's a very persistent one. So I went to the website. Now, the PA Media Group actually does exist. Now, you may think to yourself, well, Ben, post a link, show us it. No, I'm not going to show you the website or even give you a link to it, because if I do that, I mean, I'm now in a position now where I'm getting worried. I'm getting worried and concerned for reasons I'll explain. And if I show you the website or even give you like a link, they're going to say I'm inciting harassment. I bet you they will say, along with copyright, they'll say, you are actually inciting your viewers to come and harass us as a result of our very reasonable request for a license fee. That's what they'll say. So you can go and find it if you want. It's called PA Media Group. I mean, there's a very extensive and very upmarket website, which has all kinds of like pages and tabs on it. Now, you go to the About tab, and the About tab is strangely Spartan. It just says this: a multimedia news company where our diverse portfolio of specialist media and news companies spanning UK news and information, data, technology, marketing and communications. Our flagship brand, PA Media, is the national news agency for the UK and Ireland. We provide customers across the media, sport, corporate, betting and public sectors with the broadest range of content, products and services to inform and entertain their audiences. Right, that's what they said. So obviously, like, this is not a scam. This is not some kind of, it's not like this is an official organization. I was expecting it to be some kind of like weird thing that someone set up, but no, it's legit. And they're serious about chasing me down for what they believe is a copyright infringement. And I was a bit shocked, but I decided to reply, and I sent them this. Dear copyright infringement group, I know there's no person I could address. I just said, I've reviewed your policy and current copyright law. I have taken appropriate legal advice, and I am confident that I have reproduced the image concerned in accordance with the fair use guidelines of the Copyright Design and Patents Act of 1988 and Section 17 of the USC 107. 1. For the purposes of private study or research. 2. For the purposes of criticism and review. 3. Free distribution, not for profit. Therefore, I respectfully decline your offer to purchase a license. Regards, Ben Emlyn Jones. Now, I didn't hear anything for like almost 2 weeks. I went off to the Basis Project Conference, and then I came back. I started to wonder, actually, if I'd been wrong from the start. I started to wonder if maybe I'd misread this whole situation. It really was just some kind of elaborate attempted swindle, maybe by some, by some basement office people, illegally within the organization. I just wondered that. I just thought that. But then I received a reply from somebody calling themselves Adam. Now, this is the first time anyone in PA Media Group has divulged their name to me in correspondence. And I don't even know if that's his real name, if indeed he even exists. So I'll come on to that in a minute. But he says, hello, Ben. Thank you for your email. In regards fair use, we're aware that there are exceptions for teaching and private study, which allows teachers and students to use images in classrooms and essays. However, this does not extend to placing images online, so your use would not be covered by this exception. The UK is one of the many jurisdictions that an unauthorized user can be pursued for copyright infringement under English law. Fair dealing doesn't apply to photographs used for news reporting purposes. Additionally, to contend that the photograph was used for review and criticism rather than news reporting purposes, under fair dealing in the UK, this requires A, that there was an acknowledgement acknowledging the source of the image and the instant case, and in the instant case, there was no such acknowledgement, and B, that it was fair, and for the same reason discussed above, the use wasn't fair. As the website owner, it is your responsibility to ensure that all content uploaded to your site holds the appropriate license from the rights holder to do so. It is important that you understand photographers and organizations such as PA, that's not Patriotic Alternative, that's a press association. That's short for PA Media Group. Make their living from the licensing of their images. And without these payments, they would not be able to continue to take the great images that we all need. This is why we ask for the settlement fee to be paid. Thanks, Adam. Now, there's going to be some responses to this, I know. And I'm quite certain that I'm going to get these responses are going to be, well, there's going to be some midwit smart Alex who just backslap us, and they'll say something, and there's going to be others. There's going to be trolls, and there's going to be some of you that will reply, well-meaning people who will reply to this, and I appreciate those well-meaning people. But you're going to say something like, "But Ben, he's right. Can't you see it? This is a copyright infringement because of reasons A, B, C, and X, Y, Z." Now, I'm not 100% certain that that's not technically correct. I'm not 100% certain that I actually have not, that I am actually innocent, and maybe I have actually caused a breach of copyright here. But when I said that I'd taken appropriate legal advice, this was advice I took from a media solicitor in 2015. If you remember the rather sordid affair of the Colonel Holt situation, I had there's videos on my channel about that. I actually did. I actually went to. Went to seek advice about that. Now, so this could be a valid breach of copyright that I've committed, but if so, that's kind of not the point. The point is that it's one so petty as to be inconsequential in my view, and it is one that social media users do all the time. And there's so many examples. I bet you everyone watching this video has done this at some point. All of you, you've got a social media post. Twitter, Facebook, maybe a blog or article you're working on, something like that, Substack, whatever. You write it out. You want something to illustrate it, like everyone else does. So you go through other pages on that platform, or indeed you just use image search and you find an image, you download it and put it in the post. That's something that millions of people do all the time, and that's something that I have done. And now what I do, to be honest, I take more precautions than most people. I actually do check the source of the image. If it's something more than, I never use an image that's sort of newer than about 5 years old. And what I do then is I then add it like everyone else does. Now I just don't accept it. I don't accept that me doing that, taking an image that is viral anyway, reproducing it, because I never search very far. I take something that's quite old and is quite easy to find on Google Images. I don't believe that adversely affects some photographer's career. I don't believe that. I don't accept what this person has said to me, if indeed it is a person called Adam. PA Media, they either should be sending these demands to all the millions of people around the world who do this, or sending them to nobody at all. Why have I been singled out? Well, we'll come on to that. I mean, I have a feeling that if I was writing, rather than doing Hapanwo, I was writing a blog on leek cultivation. Or digging, or artesian well production, or something like that. I have a feeling that I wouldn't be receiving these emails. Put it that way. I'll come on to more details in that in a minute. I mean, I'm sure some of you might say this, and I did consider: am I simply unlucky? Am I the loser, or the sort of like anti-winner of some kind of negative postcode lottery? But when it comes to coincidence, it's an unprovable hypothesis. You remember my skeptic videos about this? I started to smell a rat. There's one phenomenon I'm very, very familiar with, and I wish I wasn't. And it's very, very common, this phenomenon, and that is some kind of legal or disciplinary action against you, some kind of attack against you from officialdom that has a reason. The reason is given that is portrayed, a reason that appears fair, simple, superficial. Yes, you did do this, and this is why we're doing this. But really, it has an ulterior motive, one that the prosecution, the accusers, never mention. And that if that ulterior motive was not present, the action would not be taken. How many examples can I give you? Kevin Annett, Richard D. Hall, Helen Duncan. I mean, the list goes on. And there's another. I can't talk about it, but a friend of mine is in a very similar situation to mine. The very same moment, the very same moment this happened to me, it's happened to someone else, a close friend of mine, within the UFO paranormal conspiracy theory movement. I could mention many examples. Now, for example, if you want to know more about the Richard D. Hall situation, I've got an entire portal here. Let me just show it to you. You can look it all up there, but it's all in there. It's all in there. It's all there, so you can find out more there. And I mean, I wrote an article about Richard when all this kicked off with Panorama and stuff like that. And I'll read you a quote from that, actually, which is that there's a new tactic by the deep state for suppressing dissent, and it's outsourced lawfare. And I've used that term myself, outsourced lawfare. So what they do is, instead of like passing new legislation, misinformation, anti-misinformation laws and things like that, or create slippery new high courts and things like that to ban it directly, they stir up litigious paramilitaries to crush dissidents by ruining their character and livelihood in civil lawsuits. There's a few more weird coincidences as well. Like, for example, Mariana Spring blocked me. And that's a bit long story, but I'll just let me just find you the source for that. Because I mean, where is it? Here we go. Blocked by Mariana Spring. Here you go. This was back in 2023. I was blocked by Mariana Spring because I wasn't rude to her or anything. I mean, I did put an answer into one of her comments. She put something on Twitter which I replied to, and which was kind of a bit sarcastic. It wasn't rude or abusive, but it was quite sarcastic. But she must get these all the time. How does she even know who I am? Maybe I don't know. Maybe Brent Brentley and Neil Sanders told her about me. I don't know, but she blocked me. And what's more, at exactly the same time that I started receiving these emails from the PA Media Group, as I said, a friend of mine, I mean, some of you might have heard about this because he has been talking about it on Facebook. I better not say anything because it's so far, I think he's only talked about it in his private group. But a good friend of mine in the conspiracy sphere has announced that he's now being sued for copyright infringement. So what's going on here? I mean, when I first got the email, my first instinct was to pay up. It was simply my first instinct before I started thinking it might be a scam was because I'm that kind of person. I'm an honest person. I tend to assume other people are going to be honest with me, and I mean that's a fault of mine. It's a kind of naivety that I still have, which I need to get over. But I did consider paying up. It's a lot of money, 400, 500, almost £500. But I thought once it's over with, I'll just do that once and they'll leave me alone. But as I started to become more suspicious, and I should have been suspicious from the very moment actually I first got this email. I mean, you'll be glad to know that I didn't actually seriously get close to actually sending them any money. It's passed through my head for about 10 minutes. This passed through my head. You'll be glad to know that I didn't entertain that thought for long. But I started to get a bit suspicious because I thought, well, hang on, there's probably, is this the only image they're going to charge me for? I bet you there are probably dozens of illustrations that I've used over the years that I've been doing Hapanwo. And I've been doing Hapanwo, how long now? 19 years. There may be hundreds of these illustrations that technically need licensing. Now, if I capitulate over this one, I bet you I'll get more emails from them saying, well, you've been exactly the same. You've been using this. We need a license. And they'll come, and then there'll probably be a list of them. They'll come after me even more. And what's more, my acquiescence over the first images will be used as a legal precedent. This will be tantamount to an admission of guilt on my part. Because if I challenge them, then they'll say, well, how come you paid for the first one then? You bought a license for the first images. Why don't you want to buy a license for these other ones? But I didn't have to wait that long because literally about a week and a half after I received the second threatogram from PA Media Group, I got another template letter, exactly the same with the first one. You know, this one didn't even address me by name, and it didn't have a signature, but it was for the use of another image. It was a use of another image, and this is the article I put. This image here. I'll show it to you. It's this image here. It's this one, and it appears on this article here on the HPWA. There's the URL. Jimmy Savile in Hospital Satanic Underworld. And it's been unbelievably, I posted this article in January 2013. 13 years ago almost. This is extraordinary. Yeah. I thought, God, how much money do they want? I mean, the thing I did with Farage was only in May. So how much money do they want this time? Well, they sent me another one. This time they want £792.50, again with an early settlement discount. After 13 years, they want money for this image. And again, if I take it down, that's not good enough. It's been on my website for over a decade. I mean, this is outrageous. You know, people, if you illegally upload a Hollywood movie to a website, right? You get treated more leniently than I have been. What usually happens is you get the upload will be deleted. After a number of violations, you get your account banned. But, you know, when it comes to compensation lawsuits and prosecution, the only people who get, you know, it's only when you do that in a persistent way, in an organized manner, do you get that kind of treatment. That I'm talking about uploading movies. Only then do you get that kind of treatment. And these people are not even giving me the option of apologizing and simply removing the image. Because, you know, to be honest, if they did that, I'd probably agree. Because there's plenty of other images I can use. So what they plan to do, hopefully, I think what they're hoping to do is to, firstly, to intimidate me and frighten me, which won't work. No one frightens this big, ugly ex-hospital porter. But even if they can't do that, they're hoping to extract money from me. Again, this is like with Richard D. Hall. The plan is to bankrupt me as well. And the amount they're charging me, someone else, actually, I'll go through some of the comments I received under the Panama Voice article, because someone actually said that they've assessed your income to know exactly how much they can charge you, which will be very difficult for you to pay, and it will be a big dent in your earnings, but will not be so high that you can't pay it at all. So they've probably assessed me before they actually started charging me. And if they have their way, what they'll do is they'll start billing me for every image I've ever used with that kind of copyright status. And as I said, how much will I have to pay in the end? I could be forfeit to these people for the rest of my life for money. So for this reason, I've decided to fight this case. You'll be glad to know I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to give in, because if there is I think there is an ulterior motive at play here. I think they're doing this. they're saying one thing when they're secretly thinking another. It's just like with Richard. With Richard D. Hall, they said, well, you harassed these people. Of course he didn't. And even if he did, they stretched it to try and push that harassment case in. I cover it all in that portal, right? They really stretched all credulity to crowbar that judgment against Richard. But even so, they don't give a damn about that. That's not what they're doing. They're persecuting for but they were persecuting him for his beliefs, and they're persecuting me for mine. Helen Duncan didn't, this Witchcraft Act of 1735, it hadn't even been used for over a century, and they dust it off to just put her in jail. Well, they don't care whether you breached the Witchcraft Act of anything. They wanted to get that woman put away. And so the whole thing is a sham. And it was a sham with Richard, and this is a sham with me. And I'm not going to humor their dishonesty by pretending that these platitudes are the legitimate basis for their case. I'll tell you what, I don't know how far they're going to escalate this, but I mean, I will be very, very clear and very comprehensive about why I'm resisting. And indeed, I don't know how, as I say, I don't know how far they're going to escalate this. They have sent me further correspondence, which is pretty, which I'll talk about that in a minute, but which does indicate they are up in the ante. But I'm thinking to myself, why are they doing this to me? Why me, and why now? I mean, despite the fact it's obvious why. As I said, if I was interested in plum cultivation, they wouldn't give a damn. But have I said and done something recently which has caused my card to be stamped? That's the big question. Maybe it was my very dedicated and detailed defense of Richard D. Hall. I really fought Richard's corner on this. I think what they did to him was an abomination. And as you know, people say, but you don't like Richard D. Hall. You've had arguments with him. You blocked him. I know. But it doesn't matter what I think of him personally, about whether we personally get on or not. What was done to him was unfair. And I said at the time, if to paraphrase the Manic Street Preachers, if you tolerate this, then the rest of us will be next. Another possibility, I think, maybe this is actually more likely, is, and again, it's something that makes me unique within the conspiracy sphere, although, as I said, a friend of mine is also suffering in this way. I've been kind of out on a limb pretty much by myself in ufology, by insisting that the Pentuck incident is real. Now, I've got a mini portal on Pentuck. I'm quite good at this sort of thing, actually. And let me just show you my mini portal on Pentuck. And I've got loads of videos on this, and articles and other things. But here you go. The Pentuck UFO mini portal. I've got loads of stuff there. You see, loads of all kinds of different publications there on that. And the reason I think this is probably more likely is because I've already had some undue attention as a result of my interest in that case, and the fact that I have actually come down on the side of it being real. And for those of you who, again, watch regularly will know that just before I went off to Denmark in 2019, I received a rather strange phone call from somebody basically that was threatening. Maybe not threatening, but I received a weird unsolicited phone call from a stranger addressing me by name and basically suggesting that I shouldn't have anything to do with this case. So yep, I'm not backing down. Others have faced far worse. They're not after me for $250,000 like they were Richard. And look what other people have had to face, and they stood up to far worse than I have. What about all those children imprisoned underground by the government in the bases? What would I ever say to them? What would I say to them if I just took the knee on this matter? How could I look them in the eye? Another reason is, caving in won't do you any good, because Alex Jones caved in, didn't he? Do you remember Alex Jones took the knee? He did a big mea culpa. He threw himself at the mercy of the system that he'd been opposing for all his career, and he asked them to let him off lightly, and they didn't. He got stung with the biggest award in legal history. And then, what to welcome in the new year? What did I have? What was one of the first emails I got in 2026? It was another poison pen letter from the PA Media Group, and they are raising the stakes here. And I'll tell you why. Because they didn't address me by name. It didn't say hi. It just said, "To whom it may concern." And then there was no signature as well. And then along with the familiar flannel, they then said, "It is imperative that you address it immediately. Failure to do so will result in us escalating this matter to our legal team to evaluate litigation options. Your continued inaction on this pressing issue is concerning. Let us once again be clear. If this infringement is not addressed promptly, it will lead to legal action which would undoubtedly result in considerably higher costs for you. This is our final outreach of goodwill. Our hope was and remains that legal proceedings can be avoided. By acquiring the license, you can rectify this situation. Please understand that while you may not hear from us in the near future, this matter remains unresolved and the case will stay open whilst our legal counsel considers our next steps." Dun, dun, dun. That was very, very strange there, because I actually didn't pick that up until because I was working away, and I didn't actually pick up that letter until I got back on the 4th of January. What's interesting is that that was sent to me on Christmas Day. So first, it didn't address me by name, to who it may concern, no signature. It was sent on Christmas Day, so obviously no one was in the office. This was an automated system sending me this. So it makes me wonder, how many humans are actually involved in this process so far? How many humans have I even been dealing with, if any? Is Adam even a real person? Or maybe it's just like it may be a placeholder name for replies by an artificial intelligence. Don't know what's going to happen next, but I suppose I'll get sent a series of demands. I think I'll be issued with a series of formal demands, probably through the snail mail. They'll get my address and they'll send them by paper. They won't keep doing it by email. And eventually, I'll get a court summons. I'll probably have to go to the small claims court. But I'll cover that. I will cross that bridge when I come to it. Now, I had some very interesting. Comments under the article. So Missing Trillions. This is like Missing Trillions, who often comments on BitChute on my videos. Said he echoes my thoughts. This is a sure sign that you're over the target on some issue or other, and I agree. It is. It's, as I said, I think it's either Richard D. Hall or it is the Pentuch incident. Probably Pentuch. So this PA Media Group exists to put political pressure on content creators. Yeah, it exists, and it has many roles. I mean, its about town was very, very small and insignificant and rather vague. It's just very, very vague and generic. But it is a real organization. It has a formal address. Please Disclaimer, please don't contact them, okay? Do not approach them on this matter, but they do exist. They have a postal address, email address, etc. And as Missing Trillions said, they can be strong-armed into doing something by another entity. And so, and then he also says the fees they're charging seem like numbers plucked out of thin air, but calculated to be big enough to cause real hurt and loss to yourself, and at the same time small enough to be realistically payable. That's very, very interesting, isn't it? Because again, that's the point I was thinking. They've selected these particular fees that are based on an assessment of my income, which means they have access to things like they have access to probably my the things my accountant publishes and puts up, like tax records, things like that. I'm always having contact and talking with her about tax and stuff like that. And so there we go. I'm just going through these comments now. And then someone else makes this point. I don't know who it is. Someone else says, PA Media state that you are the website owner. Strictly speaking, you are not. It belongs to Blogspot. Now, this is interesting, right? Because they call me the website owner, yet they quote the website as blogspot.com. Now, as you know, and I've one in my various video banned videos that I've done called video banned this, video banned this. I'm thinking up to 16 now on the video banned series. Blogger, like YouTube, is owned by Google, and Google have made it very clear, and in fact they've been very, very arrogant and very blatant, that they do not wish to sign Article 230. Article 230 would declare them to be a platform and not a publisher, which would then make people like me, the user, legally responsible for everything we publish. Now, if they'd done that, I suppose I'd be in a more difficult situation. But to be honest, I've always supported that. I've actually always supported the idea that we should take legal responsibility for what we publish. This doesn't negate the other points that I made, but it leads to the issue that they are not doing it. Okay, then they would mean that I would then be in a different. I've always supported, because that would essentially be a free speech message. If they said the user, we're just a platform and the user is responsible for everything, you can just say what you want. It will be a free speech platform, but then they would have no pretext for censorship. The reason they don't sign Section 230 is they want that pretext. They want to be able to say, well, we're not going to sign it because we're still technically a publisher. Therefore, we still maintain editorial responsibility. And because we have editorial responsibility, we have to maintain editorial control of users' posts. Which means we can delete your images if you want. So we can delete your videos if we like. And believe it or not, Blogger have done this. Blogger have emulated YouTube. I've had like about four or five Blogger articles deleted. This was they started this. They came into this train late. They boarded this train late, but they did sort of like following YouTube's footsteps by actually start deleting some Blogger images. If you go to my Substack, I copy them all onto Substack whenever they're deleted from Blogger. Just go to Hapanwo Free on Substack, which I can show you. I actually have another blog now on Substack called Hapanwo Free, which you can actually go to. Here it is. I always put links on Hapanwo Voice to that. Here we go. Here we go. Let's just go back here. Here's an example of it here. No, let's stick with Mariana, shall we? Yeah, I did this review of Mariana's Radio 4 program, Mariana in Conspiracy Land, and I say at the bottom here, this article is too hot for Blogger and will only be posted to Hapanwo Free. And if you go actually to my various, where is it? Here we go. Where is it? That's my homepage. Where's my dashboard? Where is it? Here we go. My list of things, my list of posts. Here we go. I've got a whole list of posts here, which you can go and look at, which I've actually deleted from. I've actually had deleted some of these posts, not all of them. Some of them I just put there because I knew Blogger would delete them, and some of them are posts that have actually been actively been deleted from Blogger. because Blogger, as a Google subsidiary, they are deleting my posts for editorial reasons because they have editorial responsibility, and they make it very clear that they can do that. I have no editorial control or intellectual ownership of anything I post on this platform. Right, so in that case, now it's time for them to take some bloody responsibility. If that's what they want to do and they want to be a publisher, this is you've got to take this responsibility too. That's an important point, because I then can turn it back on them and say, well, it's not my fault. I'm not the website owner. I published it there. They're the editor. They have editorial control. They have editorial responsibility. It's up to them if they allow this to happen. You should be send Google the bill and not me. So there, that's it. Now, there's more information. Someone actually found out that the Nigel Farage image actually is on the Alamy depository, which is a bit interesting. And the Alamy only charged £24 for it, interestingly. And it says here, the Wikipedia page for Alamy is interesting, not very complimentary. A significant percentage of Alamy's image catalogue has been hoovered up from the internet, and they've been criticised for licensing material already in the public domain. In one instance, they tried charging a fee to an original creator who had put her own material online as free with attribution. My goodness me. So there's also this Farage image. That's quite something, isn't it? And someone said, I've heard of PA Media chasing royalties for several years. I wonder if editing future images with cropping, filters, sharpening, etc. would be enough to be considered no longer the photographer's original image for any of your use. Not to be offered the option to remove the images seems like they're motivated by the license income rather than compliance. I don't know. I think they are actually motivated by not so much income as I said, an ulterior motive to attack me. This is essentially is like an aggressive act against me for an ulterior motive, which is my beliefs. Although, as the cropping doesn't work, I know, because in the Savile image, they actually did provide a link to the original image, which is an uncropped version of the one I put up in 2013. Definitely. So that's the situation basically I'm in. I won't know anymore until I receive further correspondence from them. Obviously, I've made one reply to the various requests they've made, which is defiant. I've said I respectfully decline your offer to purchase a license. That's the only time I wrote back to them, claiming that it's fair use. That I could be wrong there, but even if I'm wrong about it being fair use, it doesn't detract from the fact that I have there are other suspicious elements to this fact that I have been singled out for this kind of treatment. I don't believe every social media user, blogger, YouTuber, Twitter poster, Facebook user, etc., has been sent these bills. I'd have heard about it if lots and lots of other people have been sent these bills. So what's going to happen next? To be honest, I don't know. But what I'm expecting to happen is I'm going to receive a series of formal demands for money from PA, and there'll probably be three of those, maybe four, and there'll be like a final demand, and then I'll receive a court summons, probably to the small claims court or something else. And when that happens, I shall deal with it. But in the meantime, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to try not to let this bother me, because you know what? You ever heard that phrase, the process is part of the punishment? In fact, when Richard got out of court at the end of the trial, we went to the pub and he was visibly relieved, and he said, thank God that's over. Even though he didn't know what the verdict would be, he strongly suspected the verdict would go against him. He was just so relieved to have it all over. And I've heard this said many, many times from people like, Lucy Connolly and the people who've been put in jail for tweets and stuff like that. The process is part of the punishment. The process is part of the punishment. And so, if it gets to the point where I'm going to have to try and hire a solicitor, I'm gonna have to apply for legal aid. I'll have to go to my accountant. We're gonna have to fill out forms and things like that. That's all part of the punishment. So I will try to avoid that if I can. And my accountant is actually a lady who's an old friend of mine who doesn't charge me. She doesn't charge me anything because basically she's retired and I'm an old friend, and my work is very simple. But I'll have to start paying her if she has to go through all kinds of things and start filling out forms for legal aid and stuff like that. In a sense, that's above and beyond her current duties, or her current choice to work with me and to do my accounts. And I'm not going to put her through that. There's all kinds of other things that I'll no doubt come back to, and I'll explain as soon as that happens. But in the meantime, this process is part of the punishment thing. I'm not going to try and let it get to me. I'm going to try not to worry about this. I'm going to try not to open up my inbox every morning, every afternoon when I get back from work and think, oh my God, what are they sending me now? I'm going to try not to think like that. I'm a big, ugly ex-hospital porter. I don't scare easily, and I'm not going to I'm not going to cooperate and pay money to people who just want to give me a hard time because I'm saying things they don't like, especially with all the evil going on in the world now, and the horrible fate of people who stand up to that evil, which is mild compared to this, which I'm facing right now. Other people haven't given in. I'm not going to give in. Now, of course, as you can see, my background is actually a prison cell. I'm not saying it's going to get that bad. Certainly not over this. But you know what? I've started to think, if is this whole situation with the copyright issue going to be the end of it? Or are they going to put more pressure on me and frame me for more things? Are they going to dig up some equivalent of Helen Duncan's Witchcraft Act of 1735 and apply them to me? Are they going to frame me for some criminal activity? I'm getting so paranoid now, but it's a kind of it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? A paranoid conspiracy theorist. But as the late great Kurt Cobain used to say, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that they are not out to get you. And they have been out to get some of us, and they have indeed got some of us. So why not me? Maybe I should just think, well, as Missing Trillion said, you're over the target. Maybe I should be glad and think to myself, I'm obviously having an effect. If I didn't have an effect, they just leave me alone. They're obviously concerned about me, concerned enough to take this action against me, which means I must be doing some good. I'm going to carry on. So I hope all you Hapanwoettes and Hapanwoers had a lovely Christmas and New Year. I'm sorry, this is a bit late for my first video of the year, but I've been away working. I've actually been doing a residential home security and care job and dog care job, which lasted a week. So I've only just got back from that. So apologies for the lack of activity. There will be a video. I'll probably do a reply to comments video at the weekend, because even though there's only been 2 videos since the last one, it's been a long time. So that's going to be the next thing on the channel. In the meantime, thank you all of you for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.